There we go. I think this should do it. If y'all have the game design docs, as in the repository for the game design documents, that they recently have updated the game design docs section, and we have additional information inside there, including a new side mission design document, which should sync up with side mission 01. First things first, if I'm going to teach you all about setting up blueprints, I think I should just go ahead and create a sample mission so y'all see what I'm doing, and y'all just interject if you need me to describe something in more detail. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. I'm currently in the top-down example map, so I'm going to pop this open. I'm also going to swap myself over to not push to talk and shut the door, so hang on. Make sure that dogs don't come in. So hold on a second. All right. Alrighty, swapping away from push to talk. There we go. I'm in voice activity mode now. Y'all still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are. I have a whole bunch of stuff here just as a example for test missions, and as such, I don't want to touch this stuff. I want to leave this here as an example for y'all. So I'm going to go to a fresh map. Just going to go to the Fog of War test map that I made real quick, which is just a very simple map that's very stripped down. It's what I've been using to test things, since Robert tends to end up testing things on the top-down example map, which makes it cluttered. So you can see I have a pretty empty map here, and I want to create a mission. These are just little hotkeys that I set up for testing things. We're going to clear that out. So I have nothing. First things first, we need to create a mission. Missions are stored inside of an array in the player controller. And as such, when we create a new mission, we need to drop it into the player controller. So to get the player controller, we are now in the level blueprint for the Fog of War test map. All you need to do is just click the blueprints up here and open level blueprint. Let me see. I probably need to set things to capture my whole screen rather than just the window, because you're not seeing the pop-ups. So let's see. There's screen share options. Here we go. There we go. That should be a little better. Let me make sure that OBS is also set up to do that, because if it's only capturing part of this stuff, then I want to change that up. Imagine that, let's see. Okay, I'll just leave it as is for now, and hope that that's good enough. You won't see the pop-ups, but you can see now, the little pop-up. You can see, you just click open level blueprint, and we're taken to the level blueprint. I'm also going to stop the echo effect in the background here by just going to full screen for y'all. Just call me if something seems to be going wrong on the stream. And so we're going to begin. If we're going to create a mission, we need to add a mission to the missions array that's stored in the player controller. Oh, there's a message on Discord. Hang on. Oh, this doesn't. We're good. So first things first, we get player controller. You see, you just right click to bring up a search window, and you type in something. All I did search for was get player controller, and there it pops up. You just want get player controller, not get player controller ID. Now, our project has created a customized version of the player controller so that we can store different stuff in there. So drag a pin off of the get player controller and type in BP, and you should see cast to BP base player controller. Click that node, and this is the basic node that we use. This is the basic node pair that we use in order to get our player controller. Next, we need something to call this. So for the test's sake, I'm just going to use the begin play. So search for begin play, and when the map begins playing, we'll start calling this chain of code. Any questions so far? Starting off slow, and then I'll pick up speed as we go along. Everything seems fine.
I'm just looking at it and trying to understand what's what. That's about it.
All right, am I zoomed in enough? Can you see things clearly?
Yeah.
All right, good
Yeah.
stuff. Now, next thing is we need to actually get the mission system. So drag off of our version of the player controller and type in mission, and you can see a whole bunch of stuff pops up. We want just the mission system, so you can either look for get mission system or you can type in mission system, and it should highlight it more specifically. Now we have the little mission system, so we can add a mission to it. So drag a pin off of that, add mission, hook that up, and this is our basic chain for the begin play. Add a mission. However, we haven't actually defined the mission. Furthermore, when we're blueprinting, it becomes a lot easier to track down bugs if we have things print wherever there are possible failure pins. You can see here that when we cast to the base player controller, there is a cast fail pin. Drag a pin off of that and type in print and hit enter, and you'll get a little print string. And then define what's going on here. In this case, we're in the Fog of War test map event graph, so I'm going to type in Fog of War test map begin play, couldn't get player controller. And now, if it fails to cast to the base player controller for whatever reason, I'm just going to say, hey, we didn't get the base player controller, and we're in the Fog of War test map. If you just leave down these logs, it only takes like 5 more seconds for each of these things, and if we have to go in later and add these things, that's hours. I've had to add in a bunch of extra logs in order to fix something into the master. Yeah, just go ahead and make sure all the pins are occupied. If not with the actual logic like this, then with error messages like this, so we can track down what's wrong. Remember to compile and save quite often, or to spot your errors. So here we're adding a mission in the begin play. Normally,
I just want to ask something about that. So is that something that comes up in like a map check, and you just write it down in the print string?
I'll show you. If I were to not add a mission, but instead, let's break the link here. If you right click on the pin on either side, you'll get an option to break the link. That's how you break the link without destroying the node. So I'm just going to pull a pin off here and type in print. And I'm going to say example print. So now, when I start the map, you have to hit compile, or the changes won't save and you won't actually see them in gameplay. So when I hit compile, and then I load the Fog of War test map, you see this output log. Do you have this window in y'all's versions?
I don't believe I do.
You don't
No,
believe you
I
do?
don't either. No.
Okay, I do. And y'all will want it as well when you're debugging things. So at the top left in window, you should be able to scroll down here and see a bunch of different windows that you can add. And one of them is the output log. Let me see if I can find it again. There it is. So all you would do, I'm going to remove it. So I no longer have the output log. I'm going to go to the window, scroll down to developer tools, and see here's output log. I'm going to click it, and it's re-added. And you can just drag it around to wherever you want. I can put it like over here if I want. I can put it up here if I want. All sorts of things. I like it having it down here as a replacement for the content browser.
Yeah.
And you can see it's logging all sorts of jazz. We don't need all this information. So before a test, all you need to do is just right click it, clear log, so that it's nice and clean as we load the map. Now, if you look to the top left as I launch, there you go, example print. Did you see that? It was short, but you can also search for the log here in the output log, example, and there it is, example print. So that we were told it to print something at the begin play, so it printed. I'm gonna stop and reopen the level blueprint. So for these prints as well, if there are more specific error messages or tests, like you need to test something very specific and you need to make sure that it's happening, what you do is you just print something to make sure that that line of code is being called. So you can hit this arrow. A lot of nodes have arrows on the bottom for additional details. And you can see here, print to screen and print to log. In this case, it prints to the top left. The print screen tells it to print to the top left when you're playing so that you can see it pop up during gameplay. Print to log makes it pop up down here in the output log. Text color is obvious, and duration is how long for it to print to the screen. The log doesn't care about the duration. Duration is only cares about for the screen. Additionally, for a lot of these nodes, you can highlight an entity or an object or a variable, and you'll see a comment about it. Because you can see here it's just saying whether or not to print the output to the log, the color of the text. And they don't have the right text here, whether or not to print the output to the console. So they forgot to update their comment there. It's kind of funny. But you can see here,
Rip.
display duration if print is set to true. Using a negative number will result in loading the duration time from the config. We don't really have a duration time in the config to my knowledge that is customized, so just set the duration manually here. If you're like doing an error message, you might want to like set the duration higher and change the color to red, and that can help because that'll make it very clear to whoever is testing that hey, something went wrong. You only want these messages to be called if something is actually going wrong. If it's a like failure scenario that is accounted for in game, like the player failing a mission, you may just want a regular log here and not an error log. You get the idea. But now when this happens, it's going to pop up as red and for 10 seconds, so it's very clear that something went wrong. But yeah, so that's the basics of logging. So I'm going to rehook up add a mission here. Boop. But you'll notice I don't have anything in the new mission tab. That's fine. I'm going to launch anyway. And you'll see nothing happens. That's because we happen to find a mission. You'll see here if I search in the log, that mission ID undefined, initialized with no objectives. I've tried to put up warning logs inside the C++. So if you're doing stuff with missions, you should be able to just search mission, and you should see any errors that are popping up. So if something's going wrong when you're mission scripting, just type in mission in the output log, and you should be able to see whether something went right or didn't go right. And as you can see, when I launch, more lines are added to the log because I relaunched and it again tried to add a mission when there were no
Right.
missions, when the mission itself was undefined. So
So
nothing's going on.
that's going to tell you, and then when you get a failure message, you would then log it. Would you log it individually, or would you log like the print string that you were showing us? Would you log that individually, or would you log that like as a summary essentially?
Um,
D-
it
Do they
depends.
have
It,
individual boxes? I guess is what I'm asking.
individual boxes would be better for the individual failure locations if you're doing different
Hmm.
conditionals. Like if I were to have a branch here, hold down B and then click, and you'll add a branch.
Okay.
You can also search for a branch by right-clicking and typing in branch. They're both the same thing. It's just a conditional check. So
Hmm.
if you've set up a value and you want to check it, such as, let's say, integer more than. If 0 is more than 1, then we'll go to true. But 0 is not more than 1, therefore we'll get the false pin here. That's just a simple example of a logic check here. Is 0 more than 1? It's not, so we print false. You get the idea. In situations where we're doing conditionals like this, we will also have valid checks. So there's two ways to do a validity check, and nowadays you want to start doing that more often. So usually if you drag a pin off of something like a cast, like in BP Player Controller, this is a cast node that we use in order, because in the default engine, there's a default engine player class, and we have expanded that with our own logic, so we have to cast to our version of that class. And that's why we have a little cast fail to make sure that the cast works. I haven't really seen these things fire off unless something really wrong happens, so it's a good idea to still have these anyway. But nowadays, if there's a variable you've pulled off of a node, or like a variable that you've added over here, you usually can right-click the node and convert to validated get. This changes it into a node that has to be executed, and it also has an is not valid pin. So in this case, I can just copy this node and say instead of couldn't get player controller, I can say couldn't get mission system, and string in the is not valid into there. So now this is extra safe code. This will not crash. It just won't, because if something is not valid, it'll just print out something instead of trying to continue with an invalid variable. Does that make sense? That's one
Yeah.
way to do a validity check. Sometimes you can't convert something to a valid node, and so if you want to be careful with it, you can just drag a pin off of it and type in is valid. And that provides a Boolean value which we can check in a branch. And then in the false case, we could print out the error message here. It's pretty simple. It's for safety's sake.
Hmm.
Next, you'll see I put this big old begin play box around it. Not only does this more easily categorize things so that if you were to copy and paste things around, you can easily tell what each thing is, but you can actually just grab the comment itself in order to scoot around the block of code. And the comment itself is visible from a distance, so when you have a lot of stuff going on, it's very easy to tell where that node is
Right.
without having to use a Control F search. So Robert doesn't do this. I wish he would,
Hmm.
but I'm going to teach you all to do this. When you want to comment something, it's very simple. Highlight all the nodes and press C. And there's your comment.
Okay.
And then you just define what the comment is. If you need to retype it, you can double click it. And then just resize it so it's a little larger than the nodes so that it makes sure that it
Hmm.
fully encapsulates it. So even when you're zoomed out, it still grabs everything. And now you're able to easily drag it around and make the node much more organized and much easier to search through. And so now that we have all this set up, we have an example of getting the base player controller, getting the mission system, and setting up error messages. We need to actually define our mission because we're adding an empty mission. So when we're adding a new thing, and you'll see that there's a pin that's an input pin, not an output pin, but an input pin. You can see here because the arrow is still pointing to the right, but it's empty. You can create a struct because you can see here it's a mission structor. Just pull the pin off and hit make mission struct, and now we can create a mission. For these nodes where you're creating things, you'll definitely want to expand it by pressing this down arrow, and now you'll see all the details you can have for this mission. So first things first, we need to define the ID. The default ID here, mission ID undefined, means that something's wrong, you did not initialize it, and you should not leave it this way. If something is listed as undefined, you need to define it. So here I'm just going to call it example BP mission. Next, for a lot of these things, if we'll do checks for the ID. So instead of manually typing it in each case, you want to copy it just to be safe. Next, mission descriptor. We were planning to use this as a description of the mission in pop-ups. I'm not sure if this has ever been applied yet, or if we'll ever create a mission for it, but still, you may just want to make a small descriptor for it now, and then you can make it larger later if needed. So this is an example BP mission for Thad, Taro, and Tyler. So there you go. And this is the mission name. The plan was to use the mission name as what we put in pop-ups. That hasn't happened yet, but we may make a transition over to it. At the moment, I'll just make that the same as the ID, but that can be confusing. So instead, I'll say example BP mission name version. We shouldn't see name version pop up anywhere at the moment because nothing is set to really read the mission name. Finally, we have the status. Again, if you highlight a variable, it'll tell you about that variable. And that's the same thing for this mission struct that I created this mission and I made the little, I created this data. So you can highlight something to read about that variable. And here, in this case, you can see that this is what's known as an enum, or an enumeration. Basically, it's a set of states. And because it's an enumeration, I put up a large comment for it, telling you what each state means. Inactive basically means that the mission is it exists. It's something that the player will be able to do, but until it becomes active or hidden, the player will not be able to make any progress in this mission. So because it's inactive, we can add this mission to the player, and the player will have it, but not be able to complete it until we just send a message to activate this mission. In this way, you can just store a mission for later, so to speak, or define it earlier and not have to define it somewhere that's more cluttered in the code. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
I'm processing all this stuff at the moment.
Sure, take your
I'm
time.
just not going to say, yeah, it makes sense. I probably have to do it to actually understand it.
Sure, I get you. After this, you'll probably want to just like create an example BP mission like I have,
Mm-hmm.
and it's rather intuitive once you've put one together. So for the sake of this begin play, we want this mission to immediately become available. So we're just going to change the status from inactive to active. There we go. And now you'll notice it's not going to work. There's an error, and the error is the objectives array pin is invalid. That's because this mission has no objectives. Each mission acts as a hub for a number of things for the player to do. So we need to drag off of the objectives array pin and make an array. So now we have an array of objectives for the player to do. So naturally we'll compile, and the compile will work, but this objective is empty, so the mission won't function. You instead need to pull a pin off, and make at least one objective for this mission. Otherwise, an objective this mission just doesn't make sense. So here's this large node. It's intimidating at first, but that's because some of these things are unused for certain objective types. Here's all the objective types. You have killing enemies, you have protecting allies, reaching a location, waiting, and waiting for a blueprint input. All 5 of these things are usable, they work, but not all 5 of these things use all of these pins. In fact, none of them use all of these pins. For example, let's see, objective number is not used for reach location. That's only used for kill enemies and protect allies. In fact, you can see here that for each value inside this objective, I've put a little comment telling you which objectives use this value. So if you have an objective type set here, let's say I set it to protect I'll keep it as kill enemies for now because it's simple. Because it's set to kill enemies. If I highlight this status, you'll see here that this just tells me that this is the status for the mission objective. It doesn't define any objective type, so it's used for everything. It's used for all objective types, so we need to define this in order to use it. You'll see here that we have active. which means it'll be updated and display as well as displayed on the HUD. If it's active, that means the player's going to see this data in real time. If it's hidden, it will be updated but not displayed. This can be useful for like secret objectives that you give a little reward to the player for completing, but you don't require them to complete the objective to complete the mission, things like that. There's inactive, which will not be displayed or updated. This means the objective will not count anything towards it. If we're trying to kill enemies and this objective is inactive, then this objective won't read that any enemies have been killed if you shoot something dead. Inactive means it's not being updated, so this objective is just basically asleep. It doesn't care what you do until you make it active or hidden. There's success and there's failed. These are self-explanatory. These just mark the state of the objective as something that the player has either completed or failed to do. We're going to set it to active for now, just so that it immediately becomes available to do. At the top here, as well as something important, the event on clear. This is just telling you this is the event name of the objective that will be called when this objective is completed. This is also currently the display name of the objective. So I'm going to call this example kill objective. How do we actually use this value? It's very simple. You right click and type in custom event. And we have a custom event here. So I'm going to copy the name of the event on clear and paste it here into the custom event name. You just double click the name of something. It's sometimes a little finicky. Actually, you single click it and then you wait a little bit. That's why it's a little tricky.
You can also press F2, I think.
Oh, that's handy. Let me try that. Ah, there we go. Yeah, you click on the node and hit F2 and that'll bring up the name. Thank you. That's a little bit more responsive. So I'm just going to copy in the name here. And there's the example kill objective event. When this objective is cleared by the player, this event will fire off. We're just going to have it print something for now. You can use this to enable the next objective, for example, if we have more than one objective, or anything else you want. You can use this to spawn enemies. You can use this to do anything. But that's why this event is here. It's so that you can have logic play when the player completes that objective. Now, you'll see I have it set to kill enemies and active. So right now, it's expecting us to kill enemies. And it's automatically tracking, so as soon as this mission is available to the player, which it will be on the begin play, because we're calling it from the begin play, and this mission is active, and since this objective is also active, it'll be tracking enemies that we kill. So how does it know that? Well, if we go through each of these, we'll find out what to do. If you're lost, just highlight a variable and read what that variable does. So here you'll see that objective number is used for kill enemies or protect allies. In this case, objective number indicates how many must be killed. We'll set this to 7. So now we need to kill 7 infected to clear this objective. You'll see that it's also used for protect allies, in which case this is the number of how many ally deaths will result in failure. So if you set this to protect allies, and you have, say, 10 dudes and you need to protect half of them, you would set this to 5. And so when 5 of those guys you need to protect die, you would fail the objective. Make sense? So now we go down to objectives done. This is a tracker that indicates how many of the objective number is done for kill enemies and protect allies. You can see here that for protect allies, it says that it's automatically set, no need for manual. So if you're doing this for protect allies, you can just leave this as 0. But for kill enemies, this indicates how many kills have been done so far. And if you want, you could set it higher to indicate that some kills have already been done. If you have like something die in a cutscene, you could like set this as 1 to count for that guy that got killed in the cutscene. Little things like that. But normally you'll just leave it at 0 so the player has exactly 7 things to kill. Target ID. This is used for kill enemies and protect allies. These 3 are the kill enemies and protect allies trio, so to speak. These are the 3 you're going to be setting if you have it as kill enemies or protect allies. So, target ID. If an enemy with a target ID that matches this dies, it will increment the objective's done counter. So what does this mean? Well, enemies spawn with a default target ID. I'll show you what this means by going over here to the content browser, finding and going over to NPC infected. You can see here base NPC, PP NPC infected normal. So here's just the regular infected normal NPC. And you can scroll down here and you'll see, actually I don't think you need to scroll here. You just need to search through the values. So you can see here in the details panel, just in the root of the blueprint, you can see if I click on a subcomponent here, the details change. You want to be in the root of the component, and you'll want to search, I think it's target ID. I'll just search for ID and it should pop up. Unit ID, here it is. It's called unit ID. ID for this unit, when broadcasted, this is broadcasted on the unit depth to update the mission system. And you can see that things spawn with a default unit ID of 0. So, if you have the target ID to 0, go full screen again. If you have the target ID as 0, then it will count pretty much any regularly spawned infected as a objective done for a kill enemy's objective. It's pretty simple. So what if we want to set a specific ID? What if we want to kill specific infected? That's something we'll get to on the next example I'll do. For now, I'll keep the basic target ID 0. But to give you the gist of what we'd be doing, we'd manually spawn in an infected, like so. Spawn actor from class, and we'll spawn in a BP infected normal. There it is, BP NPC infected normal. We'd give it a spawn transform, and on the return value, we'd set unit ID. And we'd set their ID here. So if we were to make a spawn loop, for each guy that we spawned, we would set the new ID to say like 5. And then for the objective, we'd set the target ID to 5. So if we spawned like special infected that we only want to track their deaths for this objective, we'd match the target ID to stuff that we spawned in and set their unit ID to. For now, we'll just leave it at 0 so that any kills count. Next, objective volume. This is only used for reach location. We're going to skip over it for now. Minimap point. This is a pointer that will to a location or an object where a minimap point of interest will be spawned. All we need to do, as it says right here, for us actually, create a mission blueprint point found in the folder content base missions at the location where you want the minimap point to appear, and when this objective is active, and you can see that it is, when this objective is active, that point will light up on the minimap. It can be left empty if there's no need for minimap points, but we want a minimap point for this objective. So, again, what does it say to do? Create a mission blueprint point found in the folder content base missions. So let's go there. Content base missions, and there it is, mission blueprint point. So let's say I want to kill things around this tower. So I'm just going to drop this mission blueprint point on the tower. Here it is. And if you press end, it'll drop to the surface. So there it is. And I'll drag it up a little bit so that we just see the icon in the air. And so here's where our blueprint point's going to be. I didn't make it really specific in its location. You can see over here, it has a little details panel. We don't need to set any details for this sucker. You can change, and let me see. Yeah, I don't think we need to set anything else for this at the moment. So if we go back to its Fog of War test map, we still have this selected. You notice I still have it selected. We still see its details. So since that's still selected, when we go to the blueprint, we can right click and you'll see create a reference to mission blueprint point. Boop, there it is. For missions, when we're generally adding new things to a world, we'll want to change the name to indicate what that actor is for. So since this is a mission blueprint point for what's the name of the objective? For BP mission objective 0. You can see here is objective 0 for the example BP mission. So we're going to want to make that clear. So mission blueprint point. Let's see. Example 0. And let's see. We only have one minimap point for this. So let's simplify this. Minimap point example mission 0. Now, when we also add things for mission, we'll want to go to the world outliner and see there's a clutter, even on this very simple map, you see how simple this map is. It's very simple. Even on this simple map, there's a whole lot of clutter in the world outliner. So to make things simpler, you can click up here at the folder to put something in a folder. And since we just added something new, and we're doing this specifically for a mission, we'll make a new folder for that mission. So let's call this example mission. And now that stuff is stored inside a little folder. In the main, if you're doing this in a larger map, you'll probably want to have a larger folder called mission folder or blueprint folder, something like that. And then we'll have this as example mission within that folder so that it's very clear. If you're not looking for stuff in the missions, you can just minimize that folder and you're good to go. So now this is nicely categorized, it's nicely placed, it's named. And you see the name transferred over to the blueprint as well. It did not. So if the name does not transfer over to the blueprint, it should still be fine when you recompile. But to be safe, you can just recreate the reference if you forgot to rename it and you went ahead and renamed it. So now that we have this, excuse me, now that we have this minimap point, you can say we want to create, it says we want to create this mission blueprint point at the location where you want the minimap point to appear. This is still a mission blueprint point. We just renamed it. So I'm going to drag this over to the minimap point. You'll see a little conversion node pop up. That's fine. It's just to convert it to a soft reference to prevent crashes and things like that if for some reason the point is not loaded at that time, since we're streaming stuff in and out. So now, when this mission is active, a little minimap point will appear on our minimap. We're not quite done yet though. We're just going to look over the last few values on this. We have a timer value, which is if you pass in a timer, you can see here that it doesn't specify specific objectives that it's just for, like these do. You can see here it's clearly kill enemies or protect allies. You see here it's clearly just reach location and not utilized anywhere else. In this case, it says it's not specifying any specific objective types that it's only used for. It's used because it's used for all of them. Pass in a value greater than 0 to start a timer when this objective is marked as active or hidden. Since it's active or hidden, if we set this timer value to, say, 10 seconds, then when this objective starts, we'll have a 10-second timer start with it. If the objective timer type is wait or protect allies, then this timer is what counts down to victory. And when this timer finishes, we win. If it's any other objective type than protect allies or wait, then this is a countdown to loss. It is a countdown timer instead of a victory timer. In this case, because it's kill enemies, we'll only have 10 seconds to clear the objective. And that's fine for now. Fine. I'll set it to 0, just so I can spend more time showing things off once we get things started. Finally, there's this sucker here, required. If true, this mission owning this objective will not be cleared until this objective succeeds or fails. This means that the player must clear this objective. If you have a bonus objective, you would just untick that, but every mission needs to have at least one required objective. So if you have only one objective, make sure that it's marked as required. Is everything clear so far? Because we already have a basic mission done. Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
All right. So everything's still clear, I'm assuming. Feel free to interject at any time if you need me to clarify something further. But for now, we're going to launch in, and it's going to expect us to kill 7 things. And it's going to pop up a little minimap point on the minimap. You can see here, not only does it pop up in the world map here, but you can also see clearly on the minimap, you can see my little position on the map. I'm looking straight at the objective, and there it is on the map. I probably need to add additional values for adjusting the minimap icon specifically for missions, because I've updated that. I've updated a lot of logic related to points of interest for the minimap in the world, so I need to probably extend those to the minimap points for these, but for now you can clearly see that there's a minimap point here on our minimap. And we can just click on it and see where it is, because we have up here example BP mission name version and example kill objective. And see there's the name version, so there's the name of the objective popping in. So we can swap out the name of that if we wanted to swap out the name of the whole mission. And you can see here's the example kill objective, 0 of 7. We're going to stop. I'm just going to hit escape. So if I change out this example BP mission name version to kill them all. Yeah, let's kill them all. Why not? If I change this to kill them all, once those logs go away, you can see here, there's the objective, kill them all. So we can easily swap this out to say survive. If it's like an opening thing, where we spawn a bunch of infected and we wait for the player to kill their way out. There it is, it just says survive. Example kill objective 0 out of 7. This here is the mission name, and this here is the current, and the currently active objectives will be shown up below it. And it'll track however many it needs to track. There's only one objective that it's tracking, which is kill 7 things. So let's drop in 7 things to kill. All I need to do is go into the content browser and drop in 7 guys to kill. Not civilians, infected. Just copy and paste this guy a couple times. And we have a nice array of things to kill. before we get started, I'm going to drop in a little bit of help by going to classes and dropping in a assault behind us, and we should be good. So now, to complete this objective, I just need to kill 7 infected. So I'm going to take a formation, start walking away, and you see they're already dead. So when its final objective completes, you'll get a little pop-up like this: survive, mission complete. You hit continue because that mission is cleared. It had only one objective, and that was the only required objective, so when we cleared it, the mission counted as complete. Pretty simple. We'll run it again just to show. You can see here that it's live, tracking the kills live. So when the 7th guy dies, boop, there we go.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the question, like the architecture that you use, is that something that's sound throughout using it in our missions as well? Like we can use this as as the architecture for some of our missions. Obviously, that's going to change depending on
Yeah, you can
the
literally
right.
just copy this setup if you wanted to, and just adjust where you add the mission, and
Mm-hmm.
then drop this in somewhere, and this would work as like a little side objective for like a survive room or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But now,
I think we have something like that in the hospital, Taro. I'm not sure. I know there's like a room where it's like stuff gets crazy and it's a survive area. I don't know if we were
yeah, you could literally use
the
this. Yeah, you could literally use this objective for that. You would just copy this in
okay.
there and then drop in a new minimap point for it if you needed a minimap point. If you didn't, you could just not have a minimap point there.
Yeah, I mean it's good that everything's like annotated so that you can go through and just understand what's what, even if we're doing this at whatever hour of the night and we can figure it out.
Yeah, it should be very clear most of the time. And in the top-down example map, you have a much more complex example mission that you can use to see how like each objective type is basically done. Each basic
Mhm.
archetype of objective, that is, if that makes sense.
Right, it's archetype, not architecture. Sorry.
Yeah, you get the idea. So
Yeah.
now that we have this basic objective set up, this is a pretty simple mission. As soon as those 7 guys are dead, we're done with the mission. So let's say we wanted to move somewhere and then kill things. Well, in that case, for this mission, we'll add another objective. Now we have 2 objectives. We're going to say we can kill things second. Make sure it's not linked into multiple points on there. I don't know what's going to happen if you add the same objective to multiple points on there. Just don't do that. So now we're going to make a different objective, and we're going to set this objective that we just created to inactive. So even if we kill things, this won't track. I'm going to drop it to 5 for simplicity's sake. And let's make a new objective. We'll copy the existing one, hook it in there, and now let's call this an example reach objective. We're going to change it to reach location. So what do we do now? Well, objective number is unused, so we can just leave it at 5 if we want, or to make things look cleaner, we set it to 0. And now all we need to do is set it to active, so that as soon as we get this mission, we have an objective to reach the location. And we need to reach a location by reaching an objective volume. As you can see here, it says reach location. This is the volume that will need to be reached by the player in order to finish this objective, not utilized for other objective types. Pretty simple. And we can see here it's a mission volume soft object reference. In other words, we need a soft reference to a mission volume. What's a mission volume? It's pretty simple. Over here on the left, you can search class. You can go to the volumes and type in mission. And there's our mission volume. Drag it in. And let's set it up here. I'm going to move our dudes away from it so that we actually have to reach it. And I'm going to adjust this volume to be wider. So they just have to walk up to this general area, and they'll have completed the objective. Next, see all these infected? We don't need them right now. So let's get rid of them. And now we have a volume to reach. So just click that volume, make sure it's selected. In fact, since we just created a new actor for a mission, we're going to move it back into our categorization. And we're going to call it mission volume example mission 0. And since the minimap point that we were using was for kill enemies, we're going to actually reuse this now for the reach objective. We're going to drop it in to the middle here and raise it up a little bit. And now now it's very clearly, when it pops up on the minimap to reach a location, we'll see the location to reach. We're keeping it named as 0 because it's for the volume that we just created. Pretty simple. So if we go back to level blueprint, again, I already have it up here as a tab, but I'll just click that anyway. It'll take us over to that tab. Because I have the mission volume currently selected, I can right click and create a reference to that volume and then drag that into objective volume. And that's our reach location objective done. But you'll notice, once we complete this objective, we'll need to next kill a whole bunch of things. But you'll notice there's a problem with that. Watch up here, example reach objective. We reached it, so that objective cleared, but the mission's not done. Why is the mission not done? It's very simple. It still has another objective to clear, but this objective is still inactive. So how do we progress from this objective to the kill objective? Quite simple. From the event. Let's copy this event name and change out this event to the reach objective. Now, we're going to interact with this mission in order to set this objective to active. So, now that we have this custom event that will be called when we reach the objective, in fact, I'll go ahead and print here, objective reached. It's useful to do prints along the way if you're not certain that something's going to work, so that you can be clear about whether or not things are working properly. You can see here that I need to reach the objective, and is the minimap point there? The minimap point is not hooked up, so let's fix that. Minimap point goes here, and we'll break the link here. So now we have the minimap point. So when we load in, we can clearly see where we need to go in the world and on the minimap. I need to update that minimap there, sorry. Well, but we're not going to worry about it because this is a top-down map. So you see, we reached it, the minimap point disappears, and a little print popped up saying that we reached the location. You can see here, there's success, reach location objective number 0, and location reached. I believe that was the name of the print. Or did I fail to hook that up? Objective reached. See, example reach objective. So it should be hooked up fine. And when I reach that objective, we should see it pop up here. There it is, objective reached. So the print is working fine, everything's working fine. So instead of printing a string here, we're going to interact again with the mission objective. So what do? We grab our little get mission system trio here and drop it in here in order to interface with the mission system. I'm going to grab our prints again. Again, just copy and pasting here makes this so much more quick, so much faster. And you just, for Fog War test map, reach, example reach objective, example reach objective. And you see, actually I'll just copy the name here and just paste it over begin play. There it is. And now we're ready to adjust this mission ID. So how do we adjust it? It's very simple. Grab the mission's ID, get mission by ID, because we want to adjust a specific mission. So, but let me think again. Did I add something else? Objective C. Set objective status. This is what we want. This is the simplest. This is the interface node I made in order to reduce the number of calls that y'all have to do. So, to set objective status is what we're going to use to interface with this mission in order to find this objective inside this mission and set it from inactive to active. So right now we're going to keep it as inactive. And we need the mission ID. It's pretty simple. We just get the mission ID from when we created it. Copying and pasting is safer here in order to make sure because it's doing an exact search for this ID. So example BP mission, objective ID 0. That's incorrect actually, because you can see here, this is hooked into the 1 pin. So we want to set it to objective ID 1. So now we're going to interface with this objective right here. That's all the information it needs in order to interface with this objective. So what do we want it to do to that objective? Simply set its status to something new. In this case, for some things like this, especially like if you wanted a different way to clear an objective, you could just have an event call success, and that would instantly mark that objective as completed. But instead, we want to just set it to active so that it pops up on the HUD and so that kills count towards it. So with this done, example L reach objective will now update our mission to progress from reach location to killing enemies. So we're going to run up here, and boop, there's the kill objective. Nice and simple. All I had to do was just copy our little interface trio as well as its prints. I would do that right here. You can see here that I'm selecting all that stuff at once. I just click and drag to get these 3. Then I control left click to add to selection, and I grab these 2. And you can just copy it, paste it somewhere, and there's your little interface trio with debug logs. And then you just drag off the mission system and set objective status. And this is your little objective modifier block, if that makes sense. So now that we have example reach objective set up, put a comment around it. And so what's missing? Well, we need things to kill. So for this case, I want to kill specific things. So I'm going to set this target ID to just like 14 or something. Something that's unlikely to be used by something else. And now I need enemies with the ID of 14 to kill. I'm going to go do like 3 dudes here. Let's kill 3 guys with a target ID of 14. So there's 2 ways to go about killing guys with the objective ID. We could just drop them straight in if we wanted, have them already be in the map. So let's go into this guy, unit ID, set this to 14 as well, and copy and paste him 2 times. But you'll note a problem with that if we try it. On our way to the objective, there's a chance the player will kill them, and before the objective starts, they're already dead, and we can't track their kills. So that's a problem. How do we get around that? Well, one way is to just make sure that these guys only spawn in when the objective has started. What's a good way to do this? Well, if you're going to do some more advanced logic than just setting up missions and stuff, you don't want to do that in the event graph. You want to do that in a function. I'm going to clear all these out because these are from an older test. So we have no functions. So we're going to create a function. What's this function for? It's for creating some dudes to kill. So new function. We're going to name this spawn for kill. You'll want to give it a more detailed name here, but you can see here now we have 2 tabs. The event graph, where's all the stuff we're doing. You can also click on the event graph up here to jump to it. And since this is for the objective that we named example kill objective, we'll say spawn for kill objective. And here it's just a little subgraph where we can do even more stuff while making sure that the event graph remains relatively clean. So now that we're here, we're going to just go ahead and hook up spawn for kill objective. And then you can double click on the function to jump back into it. Now, what do we want to do here? Well, we want to make sure that the player can clear this objective. He needs to kill 3 things that have the target ID of 14, so we're going to spawn in 3 things that have the target objective of 14. How do we do that? Well, there's multiple ways. The cleanest way, and the way that I recommend for you to spawn things in, is to go into base, and see, believe it's base missions, and mission blueprint point. What this sucker is, mission blueprint point, all it does is act as a reference in the world for spawning things. Why is this important? If you have a large map, such as our master map, where there are a bunch of offsets and references and stuff, and you reference a direct location, that location will likely be incorrect if that level is translated by the master. Short version is, if you drop in an actor and have a reference to that actor, the location will always be where that actor is, no matter where it's translated to in the world. So if we put a building here, and later we move that building with the actor over here, it's still going to be an accurate spawn. So you drop in a mission blueprint point, which is just a little point to be used for missions, and you still have it highlighted. We drop in a reference to it here, and guess what? I missed something. I needed to name it, because you need to categorize your stuff. In this case, because the sample mission now has 2 objectives, I'm going to left-click this fellow, and left-click this fellow, the mission volume and its minimap point, and put them in a subfolder. Example mission objective 0. And for this one, example mission objective 1. Pretty simple. Categorize your stuff. It'll make things so much easier later, believe me. Because if we need to edit stuff, having it all condensed like this is so much easier than having it spread out everywhere and having to search for each individual element and not knowing if you missed one because someone didn't bother naming it correctly. So now, say this is just we're going to use this for spawning things, so we're going to call this spawn point example mission 1. And since we're going to have more than one of these suckers, we're going to just call this spawn point 1A. And then I'm going to make 2 more. Let's see. We're going to change the naming schema here, because as you can see here, when I copy and paste, that Unreal automatically iterates through the number. So I'm going to change up this naming schema. Example mission 1 0. So that it's zeroed out. And now if I copy and paste, there we go. It automatically goes to 1 and then 2. So this is easier to iterate through. If you're going to have more than one of a certain thing, you may want to have the last indicator, the last part of the suffix be numeric. So when you copy and paste, it'll just go to the next number for you instead of you having to manually adjust the name again. So I'm undo via Control Z, and now I have these 3 spawn points, which are again are just mission blueprint points that are referenced in the world. Now I'm going to grab this first point here and go into the Fog of War test map, and see here that the spawn point already has updated its name. So I'm going to grab the next one and make a reference to it, and grab the third one and make a reference to that. All I have to do is just select it and then right click in the event graph, and now I have these 3 spawn points for spawning for the kill objective. Now what do? Well, I need to actually spawn something. So you type in spawn actor from class. You don't have to type in the from class part, but spawn actor is generally enough. And you can see here, spawn actor from class. What class? NPC infected. So NPC infected. You see, there's a lot of infected. We want the infected normal, and we want the blueprint version. To be clear, there's C++ versions of the classes down here. They are not. They don't have all of the details in them. You want the blueprint version. You can see you can see here as either a blueprint suffix, as in BP, or a blueprint prefix. Here you can see these guys are prefixed, so BP NBC infected normal. So I want just type in BP infected, and you see all the infected types here, and we want BP infected normal. You're just going to spawn in 3 dudes. If these guys are required for a quest, we don't want default collision handling override, because that may stop the spawn. So in this case, we'll always spawn and ignore collisions. And that way they'll guaranteed spawn. Instigator, that's unnecessary. That's only for damage causing, so you can ignore that. There's also owner, that's also unnecessary. You can just leave this node as is when you drop it in. Now, it needs a transform. That's where to spawn it in the world, and that's what these spawn points are for. Drag a pin off of the spawn point, get transform, and you'll get actor transform, and then plug that in there, and that's one guy done. Almost. Because if you recall, we're looking to kill things that have an ID of 14. So pull a pin off the return value, set ID. You'll see set unit ID pop up. Give him an ID of 14, and this guy's ready. So now we'll drag this down here. We just copy this existing deal, but instead plug in the actor transform of a different spawn node. And when we finish setting the unit ID for this guy, we want to pull this pin off and go to the next guy. And we're done with that one. So let's copy these 3, paste it in here, and then hook in this spawn point, and we are done. This function is ready, and as you recall, this function gets called when we reach the objective. Example, reach objective. So we get the mission, begin play starts, we get the mission. The mission is defined to have this guy as active, and this will call this event when we reach this location. This event is defined down here, which gets the player controller to get the mission, set the objective status of objective 1, which is this guy, the kill objective, which is looking for 3 kills of target ID 14. So where do we get those kills? Quite simple. We go to this function where we spawn 3 guys and set their target ID to 14. So when we go into this map, 3 infected will appear here when we reach this location. There's 3 infected. 1, 2, 3. Mission complete. How do you like that? Any questions so far?
Not at the moment.
Good stuff. So, question. Do y'all feel like you could do this on your own? Like you could recreate what I just did?
Uh,
I don't know, maybe.
Maybe. Probably not.
Probably not. Okay. What I'm going to do...
I just gotta see it, I think, and then mess with it.
Alright, I get you. So, let me think. What I'm going to do... I'm going to save this map as it is. And next time we have one of these meetings, which will... Like, tomorrow we won't have one of these meetings because we'll have the usual 6:30,
Yeah.
3:30 Wednesday meeting. Tomorrow, I'll want to, like, I'll want to just, like, speak with y'all about this again and see if y'all have recreated it in a different map. Because y'all need to be able to do this, and I need to make sure that you can do this.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I think my concern was just like, I think just doing it, like just practice doing it.
Yeah, I get you. It's pretty simple. You just pull pins off, and you remember to be fastidious about naming your stuff and categorizing your stuff. This is the step that can be skipped, naming your stuff and categorizing it.
Hmm.
And if you do skip it, you're adding hours to testing later. Don't skip it, please.
Right, right, right. So
Don't
like, I
cut
guess,
corners.
yeah, don't cut corners.
Yeah, don't
I
cut
think
corners. Name
I
your
think the
stuff.
question, right? So you can have a mission folder within, like, for example, like Terrell's working on the hospital. It could be like, mission one, and then it would
Yeah,
be, yeah, okay, that's what I
yeah.
was thinking.
Just
Yeah.
beware. That folders here, like you see these folder names,
Hmm.
you can't have two folders of the same name. That won't work.
Okay.
So when you're doing something for a specific mission, like you'll still probably have a default mission folder for the main master. It'll probably be called something like blueprint folder, and it'll have like a mission folder underneath it and things like that. So just make sure that it's named after your example mission here. Like in this case, it's called example mission for Tarot and for Tarot and Thad, I believe, or something like that. You see
Hmm.
here, example BP mission. So to be more clear, I could call this example PP mission. So it is extremely clear what mission this is for. And then these are for the specific objectives in that mission. You can name these after that objective, or just name them after their position in the objective array. In this case, you can see it's 0 and 1, so I just call these are used for objective 0, these are used for objective 1. It's incredibly clear what all of these things are for now. That makes sense? And these things are named for it as well. And the suffix, if you make sure the suffix is a number, it'll make things more clear when you're copying and pasting. In this case, if I were to make a second minimap point, it would be for this one, but I don't need that, so I'm going to get rid of that. And let's see, something else. Oh yes, I just yesterday actually I added in a new feature. This is a little clear. This is also easy to do. It just sounds overwhelming. You if you'll notice when I kill the dudes up here, that the mission complete pops up. This is a pretty barren complete screen, don't you think? We can fix that. You can see here. There's the objective. There's the objective ID popping up. Survive. That's the mission name, I should say. That specifically the mission name that we defined here. But nothing else is popping up. All that's popping up is just survive, objective cleared. For testing here, you can see here that I'm typing the console slow-mo 5. But yeah, survive, mission complete, continue, that's it. Oh, so you know as well, this is a very nifty console command. If you press the tilde key, it's at the top left to the left of the 1 key on English keyboards. You'll see a little console pop up. If you press it twice, you get the full console, and press it again to close it. But just press once and type in slow-mo, and then you can type in the multiplier for speed. So if you type in 5, everything moves 5 times as fast. Or you can type in slow-mo 0.5, and everything's moving at half speed now. It's useful for testing a variety of things more quickly if you need to test stuff. This will save you a lot of
Hmm.
time. So yeah. But next, you notice that pop-up was very barren. We want to fix that. So you can go to base, player controller, and here's the BP base player controller. Hang on, I got another message. It's done right now. It's not work related right now. So BP base player controller, and you see I've made a new graph down here, mission text graph. You see it at the bottom left? This is for adding text to pop-ups because I made that recent HUD pop-up, and it's like, well, it needs text, so here's where you define it. All this stuff over here, all this stuff down here, don't need to worry about it. All you need to do is worry about this section over here in the mission text graph. Normally when you open it up, it'll probably look like something like this. Here's this big old event graph with all this logic. It's like, wow, this is overwhelming. Who cares? Go over to the mission text graph over here on the left. Scroll in here. This is where you need to mess with. Now, all you need to do is add a pin to this string. To add, see, it says here for you to add new text, just create a new case on this string. So we'll add a pin. There's our new case, and set aftermath and/or reward text. Leave it empty for no text for that category. So we're going to go back to our test map and grab the ID for our example mission right here. Copy, and then we're going to go here to the string, and you notice we can't just paste it directly. So instead, when you select the string, it'll pop up in the details panel wherever you've put it. And here's the new case that we've created. It's based in our ID here. And then let's copy this example mission. I'll scoot this out of the way to make more room. Let's copy this example mission and paste it. And let's also give it the exact same name as the ID. This is just for the comment, but you don't need to make sure that the comment is correct, but it's just to make things clear. and then we'll hook this up. And so if current mission pop-up status just means this is failure text, this is success text. So in this case, for success, we're going to say success for Thad, Tyler, and Terrell. And a bit of reward text, we're going to say get knowledge. There we go. And for failure, well, we don't have any failure case for our mission, but you still want to define it. In this case, you'll notice there's aftermath text and reward text. Most of the time, you don't need a reward for failure state, so I just leave that blank. But for the aftermath, you can actually leave both blank if you want, like this. Even for like the success case, like you can leave this empty if you want, and you'll just get this little text pop up saying that it was undefined or unaccounted for mission ID, but it'll still work. And inside the actual build, this print won't pop up. So if you don't want to add any text for something, you can just leave it. You can just do it like this. But that will mean that you'll have a little bit more debug spam, and this is a little bit cleaner. It's for an example, so afterwards you may want to clean this out just to make things cleaner around here, because this will be used for main missions as well. But for now, this is just to show off the examples. So you can see here, we went to the string, we added a new case, we added the ID of our new mission here, and success for Thad, Tyler, and Terrell is now the text that will pop up, and the reward is knowledge. So now that we just did that, all we did was go into the base player controller, which is located inside the content base player controller, and there's the blueprint. And if we're not in the mission text graph, if we're anywhere else, we just go to the mission text graph by double clicking it here. And here's our case. You just scroll in on here. I put in comments and a little case sensitive deal here for you to read. It's pretty simple. I set up the pop-up text. So now when we launch and go to the objectives, success for Thad, Tyler, and Terrell, you get knowledge. Pretty simple. Any questions so far? Because that's the basic outlining of how the mission system works and how to create everything you need to make a basic mission. Hooey. Gonna take a drink of water real quick. Next, let me check on my hard drive to make sure I'm not bottoming it out. Looks like I'm probably fine. Yeah, everything seems to be fine right now. So, with that set up, what's next? Well, we can go back into our level blueprints. And let me think. Let me open up Visual Studio here real quick. What did run complete do? Because if I recall, let's see, call HUD update. I believe that's just for, yeah, we don't need to worry about that. So, when you finish the final objective of a mission, all we need to do is do the same thing that we did down here. So we're actually going to just copy this block of comment, and here we have a new custom event. You see it's saying there's a warning because there can't be two events at the same name. So we're going to copy the new objective and rename it. Here's a little block, and we'll paste that new objective name here. Example kill objective. And now we're ready to do some different stuff here. We actually don't need to get the mission system again, because we don't need to manipulate it past this, because that's the final objective, the final required objective being cleared. So the mission is also going to clear itself. So we don't even need to get the mission system here. And we don't even need to get the player controller. Instead, all we need to do is give the player some reward or something, if it's for like a side quest or whatever. So one way to do this is when we get the player controller is to set money. Here's our money. And in order to set the money of the player, if we want to just like give them basic money as a reward, you can pull a pin off the base player controller and get money in order to get how much money they currently have. And then take this current money value, pull a pin off of it, hit plus, and then integer plus integer. And here you would add the bounty for completing the mission. Let's set it to 5,000. Set your money to 5,000. And then I can go over here to the text here, and the reward text, you get 5,000. You get 5,000. See how that works? And now, when we clear the objective, watch our money, we have 15k. Clear these guys, we have 20k. With that, So that's an example of how you just like reward the player for completing a mission. When they clear the final required objective, you do this. If you have if they have multiple synchronous objectives, let's say they had like kill guys with target ID 14, kill guys with target ID 15, and you put those guys in different areas, then all you would do is instead of like calling this reward here, we would like we could set this as a function actually. Let's see, example BP mission reward, or actually not reward, but cleared, so that we only call this sucker once. And for the clear, if we want to clear a mission that's not repeatable, the side quest and the master may be repeatable. It depends on the design philosophy. I think Robert changed that up recently. But now that we have our little objective, our reward, not reward, but our clear blueprint call, it's just spawn for kill objective. We don't need this tab anymore. We can just open it back up by clicking here. So don't be afraid to close tabs to keep your bar uncluttered. If we had multiple objectives that we wanted to do, so let's add another objective here. It's going to be simple. I'm going to collapse these in order to make more room because I already defined the stuff for them. So we're good there. We're going to copy this objective. We're going to expand it out. And we're going to set this to wait. We're going to set this to wait 20 seconds. And this is also required. So we don't need the target ID or objective number. We only need to wait 20 seconds. And we're going to set this to, we're going to enable this objective down here with reach objective. So now that we reach the spot, spawn for kill objective, we're also going to set objective status again. I just copied that node, but you'll notice if I were to run it, it wouldn't run because it's not hooked up to the mission system. So don't forget to rehook up any new nodes you copy and paste to the stuff that the original was hooked up to in most cases. And objective ID 2 to active. So that'll start this wait timer. I'm also going to change the name of this objective to example wait objective. Now, we have this example wait objective, example kill, and example reach location. Reach objective in this case. So we need an event for example wait objective. So we're going to copy this sucker, get the name, and now we want to call example BP mission clear when both of these objectives are complete for giving the player the reward. So what we'll do is, let's see, we'll put this in the clear, copy that value for giving the player money into the clear function. So now that the blueprint logic that gives the player 5,000 gold, $5,000 I should say, will be inside this function. So we can just close that function and replace this with a function call. Example BP mission clear. But we only want this to reward to be given when the player clears both of these objectives. So what do? We track it. We can add a variable. So let's add a variable. Here's the name of our variable. So we'll call this example BP mission clear tracker. And what do with this? We want to set this to an integer so that we can simply count up. And when we clear the kill objective, we're going to get this clear tracker value. And you'll notice over here in the details panel, please compile this blueprint. If it says that, that means you can't set the default value until you press compile. And you can see now we have a value to set. We can set this up, we can set this down, whatever you want to do. Right now we're keeping it at 0 because the player has cleared no missions that need clearing. So what we're going to do for both of these suckers is press plus. When you pull a pin off of it, press plus, and you'll see increment int. That's for incrementing the integer value. We're going to do that. We're going to do this for both of them. So both of these are going to go into the same increment int. And if this int value is more than or equal to 2, then we'll run a branch, which again is hold B and left click, or you can right click and type in branch. Either way works. If this tracker value is more than or equal to 2, then we run the clear. And now, even if the player clears this one before that one, or that one before this one, it'll still work and give the player their reward when both are cleared, but not before and not after. And if you want to be careful with this as well, you can just, after the true, you can hit A. You can put in a do once value if you're worried about it. And that way it'll only run once. You can see here this is only when it's more than or equal to 2. In most situations, if you're just doing a straight equals check, it's safer to do an equal or more than if you're incrementing, or equal to or less than if you're decrementing something. Because that way, if something goes wrong, and for some reason one of these fires twice, which they definitely shouldn't, but in other cases, depending on what you work with, something may glitch out and fire off more than once, who knows? The more than or equal to will just catch that and prevent a very, very, very unlikely glitch, if you know what I mean. So since we're incrementing this up, if it somehow gets to 3, it'll still run the clear. And if we put a little do once node here, it'll only run that clear once. And here's the clear value, it just adds 5,000 to the player. So if we just go in here, see here, there's an example weight objective. These guys are already dead, so the weight's counting down, and boop, there it is. And there's our 5,000 in cash money. There's an example mission done for y'all. Now then. Okay. Let's see how I have more messages. This one in.
It's from Robert.
It's from Robert. Let me see.
Yeah, sorry, I was getting a message when you were explaining that. You are recording this too, right?
I am recording this, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to post that up.
Good stuff. That way I can watch it back, because I'm sure I'm going to have to watch back some parts. I apologize.
It's good that you can later watch it, so if you don't get something, you can just check it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Seems like we're good. Seems like we're good there. These aren't work-related messages that I have, so I'm not worried about that.
Oh yeah, mine were. Sorry, it was about the assets. I apologize.
Oh, it's fine.
And my Unreal was crashed as I was checking it, so I was like, "Damn it!"
Rip.
Yeah.
He's asking, how did you guys decide how long you want to go daily? I was thinking that we were setting up our timer such that that would have at least an hour. So how long do you guys want to go each day when we do this?
Let them go, and then I can answer.
Sounds good. Tyler, Sarah, what do you think?
Whatever is needed is fine.
Whatever's needed, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got one task done today, which is get you guys ready to start blueprinting.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to handle some basics of blueprinting. And one more thing, when it comes to blueprints, and when it comes to any form of programming, is examples. So if you're not sure how to do something, you have a basic idea of how to do something, but you're not sure how, you can find an example. You can look it up online in like a video, or Google it, or
Right.
look at one of the maps that we've already done something like what you're looking for inside, and you'll find an example. This is something that I constantly, like, if you look at my stuff here, this is C++ stuff. It looks very complicated. A lot of it is founded on just finding an example and then expanding it to what I need. In this case, you can see here, here's a switch. If you didn't know how to do switches, guess what they are? It's this exact thing. This is the C++ version of a switch. It reads new status. In this case, this is reading mission ID, and then chooses something that matches it. And if it's an undefined or a value not shown here, it just goes to the default. And that's the same thing here. If the mission is success, run complete mission. If it's failure, run fail mission. If it's default, which is anything other than success or failure, then run it. Then run this logic. You can see here, I'm doing the same type of thing here. Here's a print. This will print a log the same way this prints a log. It's a very similar idea to the other stuff that's been going on. Also, for some reason, this comment shrunk. I don't know why. Let's fix that. But yeah, don't be afraid to look up examples, and because a lot of time it'll take you less than 5 minutes to look up an example, whereas if you try to like call one of us for help, it may take us hours or even the day to get to your message. So don't be afraid of just looking up examples. You can look in other maps where we've done things, and you'll find examples of blueprint nodes and other things being called. Like here, this is how you interact with the HUD. You create a get all widgets of class node. You do a find, and here's the found widgets, and it's an array. You can see here because it's a little grid pattern. Checking the Roberts messages. You can only make the meetings after 3 for Monday and Friday and 4 for Tuesday through Thursday. So that would be like 6 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, so you see here, this is an array. A little grid shape means it's an array of things. And to interact with an array, you hit get. You type in get, and this gets you the value at that array point. An array is just a group of things. If you want to perform operations on every member of an array, you type in for, and this will create a for each loop. And this, whatever you attach here, will run once for every array element. But in this case,
Right.
there's only one HUD widget. So we do get all widgets of class, HUD widget, and we get the first element, which is dropped in from that find. In this case, the first element will be our HUD. And if it's valid, see I pulled off an is valid check in order to make sure we don't crash, and run this branch. In false case, again, couldn't get the HUD, so it's just a little quick print there. But in true case, we then get that value here. You see, here's the HUD that we got. Going over here to create mission pop-up. And what a create mission pop-up? It's a function I created. What it does is it creates a new HUD, a new mission pop-up, which is like the one that you saw, and passes the data to it. Here's the text that we just set, for example, as well as the mission ID for it to get the name from it, whether or not it was success or failure. And this is just a reference to the HUD itself. It's relatively simple for a lot of these things. Because for some of these nodes, the nodes that I've created, like this one here, you can double click them and go see the node yourself. And you'll see everything that's in that node. And here, like this, for example, this is the HUD widget. It has a lot of data on it. But that was a specific function in that HUD widget, which just creates that HUD and adds it to a specific canvas. In this case, this is where it's going to pop up. So I'll put that canvas there. And when the little completion widget pops up, it'll be added there. And if you need to adjust this later, you can just move where it's going to pop up. If you want to pop it down here, over here, just do what you want. A lot of this stuff is very malleable. And it looks intimidating, but everything can be just broken down into its basic elements and understood. Like, this looks complex, especially when it's like this, but that's just like where it's going to pop up. It's that simple. And I sized this canvas to be the same size as the widget. So if you were to resize it, that may change the position that it spawns in, but it's not actually going to change the size of the widget. For that, you'd have to actually go into the widget class and change it. You'll also notice that I did some minor changes to the HUD widget. Just responding to Robert there. I made some changes to the HUD widget, so here's another quick thing for y'all to know. If you make changes to something that you didn't want to change, in this case, I don't want to actually change the HUD widget, you can reload it instead of saving it. So you can go to UI, HUD, in this case for the HUD widget, and there it is. You can right click on it, and you'll see Asset Actions, Reload. And you'll see it says reload the selected assets from their file on disk. In other words, it just reloads the saved version, the last saved version of the HUD widget. You'd also see down here my C++ debugger is running and showing me more detailed logs of stuff because I'm running this through C++, so I get to see all the details, which is helpful for tracking down bugs. And your logs, by the way, if you create print logs, you can see now the HUD widget is reloaded, it doesn't need to be saved or anything. Oh, hang on. You see here, there's a warning during compilation. What's the problem? Let's try to compile again. We're fine. Okay. Just as a heads up, if you see a little warning light there, like a little warning triangle, go ahead and hit compile, and it'll either turn red, or it'll remain yellow, or it'll turn green. If it just turns green, that just means that the blueprint was having a hiccup. You're fine. But if it remains yellow, that means that there's some sort of error that will pop up down here in the results, and you can click on it, and it'll take you to it and show you like it may be like something like like that may be empty, and that'll be an error that's telling you, hang on, this node needs something. You get ideas like that. Just pay attention to the compiler results, and you'll be able to click on something, and it'll drag you to wherever the issue is. And then you can just hit compile when you think you fixed it, and it'll turn green if you actually did. Yeah, that's some of the basics of doing blueprint stuff, and just don't forget to look for examples, because you can see here, I'm going to save this fog4 test map and commit it when we're done with this meeting, and you can actually look at this objective stuff that I created for you. I'm also going to go back over to the top-down example map. And open its blueprint. And you can see here, I have a more complex set of objectives for a slightly more complex mission, wave defense example mission. You see here, I add it in a similar way here. Almost the same way, I should say. You can see here that in the begin play, I call a sequence node. What does sequence do? It just runs in sequence. It runs 0, then it runs 1. In this case, I run a little activate base node. All that does is it's a simple function for running all active dormant base logic. All it does is just activate this base as if the player has already claimed it. That way the player doesn't have to walk up there to claim it themselves. It's just for testing sake, and you can see here, Here's our 3 nodes again. I didn't convert this to a validated check yet. I'm actually going to do that. All you have to do is right click it, convert to validated check, and then just hook in the throughput for is valid. I'm not going to worry about posting the print in it for now because this is just a test map. And add mission. Here's the mission definition with the ID, category. There's another thing for missions. The category, if it's a side mission, you can just change the category to secondary. It's very simple. It won't break anything, but yeah, you can just set it to main or secondary. Here's the descriptor. Here's the name. Here's this array of objectives. You can see here on the top-down example map as well, I added extra comments so you can see why I'm doing what I'm doing and what each node does. Here's like the mission volume for each location. And see, here's like all the stuff I just went over. I basically just commented and added in here. So if you need more details, you can see it all here in the top-down example map. And you can also see that for the timer value, instead of it being a directly typed in value, see that? If I could type in a value here like 50 seconds, but instead it's plugged into this wave duration. This is just a variable. You click plus variable, and you can add a new variable over here. And when you compile, you see its details, and you can see wave duration is 10 seconds. So instead of typing in 10 for each of these, I created a variable and plugged it in there. And if I needed to change wave duration later, I wouldn't have to like scroll down. Where is it? Here it is. Type it in there, and then make sure I'm not missing any other nodes. Instead, you just go to the variable and change it. If you have a value that you may want to change later, make it a variable. And furthermore, for variables, especially when you're making blueprinting stuff, you want to categorize these guys as well. It makes things a lot simpler. So you can see here for wave duration, I'm going to go ahead and categorize it. Category, let's call it missions, and now it has a little missions category. If I wanted to, for example, create a new value for, let's see, wave 1 example, wave 2 example. These are just waits. You can see here, this is an objective called wait. It just waits for a certain amount of time after spawning in enemies so that the player has to survive for a certain amount of time and the next wave comes in. This is just a wave defense example mission, which I think acted like someone copied this and pasted it into the hospital, and that was the foundation for the first wave defense. Is this sucker right here. And you can see here that I even like put comments in on each of the events that are called on clearing these objectives. So you can see here on reaching the location, it gets this little triad again. In the event, the player controller in the set objective status. And then it calls a function spawn wave 1 with minimap points. Here we go. Here's a little wave spawning thing with a bunch of comments up here for more details, but it's basically what I went over. And you can see here I manually declared spawn transforms instead of getting a minimap point. I wouldn't recommend doing this anymore, but instead, again, going over into base missions and dropping in a mission blueprint point, and then using that actor's transform instead by just dropping that in the map, getting reference to it, and then getting it transformed, get transform, and plugging that in, because that is more reliable than directly defining the location. Because some of these maps are children of other maps, and if it's a child of another map, it may change what this location references. So if you drop in a point and reference that, it's going to get around that issue. That's why that blueprint point exists. I'm going to undo it for now because I didn't test it with that. But yeah, so question. Now that we know over the basics, how long do y'all want to go for this stuff? You want to like call it for now? For an hour and 30 minutes or something? Because that's a pretty good chunk of work. And then we'll just go over what we'll try to tackle next time.
Yeah, I think that because I think we all have stuff that we need to get to. I would imagine.
All right.
So I mean, I'm not going to speak for everybody. Obviously, people got to weigh in on.
Well, since you are speaking, let's just go one by one and get opinions. Do you think like an hour and 30 minutes is good for each day? For now?
I think like an hour is comfortable if you feel like you can accomplish what you need to accomplish in that hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in this case, I think we need more details because the things we can go over right now, for example, are the missions. I think Robert's going to need to detail more stuff for those for us. But you can also see here for the side mission 1, we actually have details here. So if I go to my Cepheus art directory, to the design docs, and go to the, let's see, game design document, side mission design document, you all have this, right? The repository for the design documents?
Where's that? I might hold on.
Because if you don't have it, you can go over to Halcyon Winds Developer and go into announcements. I think it's announcements. No, I think it's developer links. Yeah, here's the drive. It's the art drive itself is about 200 gigs. That's a lot. If you don't have it, you don't need to get it all because you can instead just directly link the individual folders within the art directory. And in my case, I have the concept art so that I can get the UI stuff if I need to change stuff in the UI. Okay, like here's some UI images, yay. But for y'all, everyone needs the design docs repository. How do you get that? Well, if I go to Tortoise SVN and let's see, what's the name? Properties. Let's check properties. Okay. I just need the repository link. Because I can give you the direct link to this folder, so you don't have to download 200 gigs to access it. Because that was a nightmare before, and that really hampered my hard drive. I'll find it eventually. Idea. I think Robert posted it in my reports channel, so I'm gonna scroll up there. Hello. Yeah, he's looking over the bug that I posted there. Let's see. Design. Search for design. We should be able to scroll up and find dev general, not dev general. Here at my channel. Sorry, I'm trying to get the link for you. Here in my channel, look for design. Actually, just look for link. Yeah, as a link. Because he's posted links to things. Oh, it's getting all the Yazos he's posted. You're gonna have to scroll for a little while. You're posting in here too, so this isn't. There's main meeting. There's main meeting. Why isn't it just filtering down to my channel? It's weird. In. Yeah, there we go. And we're going to type in design. There it is. There's the link. You need this whole link, including the space. But I'm gonna paste it for y'all here. You need that whole link, including the space, including the docs there. Don't skip that. You copy that whole link, and you check out that folder using using the same account that you made for the main Cepheus directory. Yes, here's my main Cepheus project, and you can see I have C++ here as well, but this is the project I'm currently showing y'all. And you should be able to check out the design docs themselves directly. And from there, you can see I go into a game design document, and you can see these side mission design documents. Christopher uploaded these yesterday or Sunday, something like that. And that's where we can see the details for the side mission stuff, so that y'all can provide the blueprint scripting for these suckers. And you can see there's all sorts of just details about what the mission needs to entail. From there, you would just look over what the mission needs to entail, figure out the general structure, for the objective flow. I can see here you get a distress call, travels to Treasure Island. So if we're not already there, you would have to make a reach location objective, and just put that volume near where this is going to go down. And you see, other groups of people still being held in different buildings in the resort. Captain Winters is asked to go to these locations and escort the civilians to the docks. Okay, so first escort goes off without any problems. So we would need an escort objective. What would that mean? Well, Robert has recently created logic where you can escort civilians. So we would have to move civilians to a specific point. Let me see. I guess that would be a protect civilians deal. And when they touch a certain volume that is set to overlap only with civilians, I believe Robert has already set up that part, so you could just copy his implementation of that for one of the objectives. Then that would complete that objective. And you see, first escort goes about a hitch, second escort, third escort, fourth escort, and you can see enemies start appearing as these escorts go down. So as you make these different escorts, you would just copy the first one, but you'd also add in spawning enemies. And then third escort, spawn in more enemies. Fourth escort, before Captain Winter leaves to get them, she gets a message that infected are starting to swarm the spot, rushes over to the area, fighting an increasing number of infected that attack her and surrounding the last building where the civvies are being held. They're overrun by the infected, which begins to massacre them on the spot. She has to kill the infected that surround her main objective and protect the remaining people as she moves to the ferry. This sounds like a protect objective. Instead of protecting the guys that are there, they would die off, and then you would get an objective to protect the remaining civilians. So you'd grab all the remaining civilians and probably provide them with a objective ID. let's see, where's the top-down example map? There it is. You would probably grab all the civilians, and like you would change one of these objectives to say protect allies. You would set them all to a specific target ID, like 10 or something. And if there were like 20 civilians and you need to protect at least half, you'd set the objective number to 10. And so you need to keep at least half of them alive. And then you would set a timer of like, say, 30 seconds or something like that. And so you would have this big old brawl with a whole bunch of infected while you protect allies of target ID 10 for 10 seconds. And as long as you, if of ID 10, make sure that fewer than 10 die for 30 seconds, and then you would clear that objective. That's an example of just like translating something from text to an objective. And then at the ferry, has dig in with the local police and hold the area for a short time. So that would be like a wait objective. And then you would set the timer. Once all the infected are killed, so that's actually a kill enemies objective. So you would take all the spawned infected in that area and give them that ID. And once all the infected in that area are killed, the mission is concluded as the ferry carrying the people gets away. So when the final objective is cleared, you would go down to its event, and you would like grab the ferry and translate it, and you would also find all the civilians at that area and hide them to pretend that they got on the boat. Things like that. You can see here that you could just go sentence by sentence and just break down, okay, this means I need an objective for this. This means an objective for that. Once this objective is cleared, I need to make the boat lerp. Things like that. You may not understand how to lerp things yet. That's fine. You would just like do all the other stuff other than the visual. Like right now, I think he just wants the scripting, and then for the visuals would come later. And with the stuff that you have here, you should be able to do like the majority of this mission on your own, and just going sentence by sentence, creating objectives for it that make sense for like what the things that it's describing. You can see here that it has failure cases here, like when Winter was killed. That's obvious. Like when Captain Winters dies, she automatically calls a failure state. So you don't need to worry about manually adding that in. You see, if I go to base NPC classes heroes, broadcast Winter's death. Winters died. When that happens, the game says game over. So you don't need to add a special case for that. Team is killed, not Winters. That may be the case that if you have like policemen there helping you, that they die. It may be the case that if you just like lose too many team members, you could add like a little tracking objective. Let's see. I recall, you see here that broadcast Winter's death. When characters die, they broadcast their death. I believe. I don't think our units broadcast their, except for Winter's broadcast their death though. So if I go into like NPC heavy, see blueprint death. Yeah, he doesn't broadcast anything. So for certain things like this, like it says, if team is killed, you can ask Robert if you think you need additional functionality. You could like ask Robert saying, "Hey, do we have functionality for tracking this, or do we need to worry about this objective? Like team is killed." If he says yes, we need to have an objective. We need to make sure that it fails if you lose too many team members. Then you would need to like ask me, and then I would go in here and I would create new functionality in the C++ or something for broadcasting a team member's death, and then I would add in logic for tracking team member deaths during an objective, things like that. So if you need new functionality, check to make sure if you actually need it, or if you like team is killed is just an implicit failure, and therefore you don't need to add a special case for it, like Captain Winters dying. That's implicit failure. It's automatically gonna fail you when she dies. So you can just assume like these may be implicit, they may not be. And if you're not sure, you can ask Robert a question about it and just do all the other scripting around it. Instead of saying like, okay, this is a roadblock, I'm gonna stop here. No, you can just go to the next one. If a certain threshold of civilians are killed in the groups, number needs to be included. He's not defined the number yet, but so you would just define the protect civilians objective. You can in fact define it as a hidden objective if you wanted. Like if I made this protect allies objective hidden, and then I count the number of civilians that we spawn in for the mission, then we just add in like say 20. So if you have like 30 civilians, you need to keep at least 10 alive. So when 20 die, this protect civilians thing would fail. And since it's set to hidden, it wouldn't appear on the tracker. The player would just have to worry about keeping civilians alive, which sounds natural. And you can set no timer on this thing so that it won't automatically clear. And once you clear all the other objectives, you would also call this objective and clear it using the set mission set objective status that we set earlier. Like this is an example, like that's pretty simple here. If civilians need to survive, so you could just set up that hidden tracking objective. See, it's a hidden tracking objective for the number of allies that have died. and we want to keep this number below 20. So like that's an example of just reading that sentence, and I just made an objective based on that sentence, and like theoretically, I'm done with that step. And then if all protected civilians are killed, like that would also be covered by this objective practically. This may be maybe it says in groups. So if you're escorting specific groups, you may just have to make hidden tracking objectives for each group and give them different target IDs, as an example. And yeah, let's see. If the ferry is overrun during the final defense mission, let's see. I'm not sure how we'd track that. It could just be the case that we could call that an implicit failure, or we could add another way of doing that is just to make a blueprint objective. This is the final objective type, a blueprint objective, and this objective just doesn't update itself. It waits for a blueprint event to call it. So for such an objective like this, ferry is overrun during the final defense mission. We could arbitrarily say, okay, let's add in a mission volume. Not a mission volume, let's just add in a overlap volume. That's the base overlap volume. Let's see. I believe Robert set one of these up. I'm not sure how to set one of those up yet. But Robert set up a volume that reads civilians inside the master for one of these side mission objectives. And he set it to only read civilians. So you could copy that volume and then find the logic for it and set it to only read NPC infected. And when that volume reads too many infected, you would then call an event that fails the mission. Because final lesson for today, and then I'll call it. You see the set objective status for the mission system? There's a similar deal. Set mission. Let's see. Complete mission. There's complete mission. And there's fail mission. These bypass all the objective logic and immediately call the mission as success or fail. So if you were to create a fail state such as on volume overlap, NPC infected normal, fail mission. And let's see. Want me to do that? Like you can see here, we have grab this volume. Here's a mission volume. Let's see if we can use this mission volume. Greater reference to mission volume, overlap, on overlap, assign on actor begin overlap. Here we go. So here we have on actor begin overlap. We have a little event occur. So we have to bind the event first. So if we could like bind this on the beginning of the mission, so to speak. We could bind it like at the beginning of an objective or a mission. So let's say this is the final stage here. We need to make sure the boat does not get overrun. So firstly, we would bind the event. And now this event will fire every time something overlaps this mission volume. So we're going to overlap actor and other actor. What does that mean? That's weird. Because I believe other actor in C++, the other actor is the thing that's being overlapped. How weird. We're going to just pick overlapped actor for now because that's just the proper name. And let's say is class. That's not an option. Let's see. Cast to. That's how we do it. We're going to cast to NPC infected normal. BP NPC infected normal. So this is how we check to make sure that it's the correct class. If the cast fails, it's not the correct class. It may be Winters, it may have been a civilian, who cares? If it is an infected normal, then we run fail mission. And that would be one way to make a very basic don't let any infected on board the boat objective here. You get a volume, and on actor begin overlap. You check to see if the overlapping is an infected normal, and if it is, run fail mission. That makes sense? It's just like I'm just reading this stuff and interpreting how to translate it to an objective or a failure state. And yeah, there's a lot of ways to do these things. It's open. In a lot of cases, it's open-ended. I'm not going to save the top-down example map because I just made those changes. But yeah, I think that'll do it for today then. Any questions to cover before we wrap? Because if not, then we need to right before we wrap, we need to just look over what we're planning to tackle tomorrow. So let's go person by person. Thad, any questions?
I just, like I said, I have to do it, and then I'll probably have questions.
I get you. The top-down example map and the Fog of War example map, the Fog of War example map is inside of maps tests. And you can see here Fog of War test map. That's what FOW stands for. And the top-down example map is in the root of the maps folder. you should be able to see both of these just fine. And just look at their examples. The top-down example map 1 is annotated, so you can easily read it and figure out what to do. So feel free to look that over and figure out how to like do it yourself. Preferably before the meeting on Wednesday. I understand if stuff gets in the way, but yeah. So we'll try to figure that out, and then on Wednesday we'll want to know what we're going to tackle. But yeah, next up, Taro, did you have any questions?
Not at the moment.
Sounds good.
I'll ask when stuff comes up.
All right, Tyler, you good to go?
I have no fucking clue.
Okay, what
I
did you
knew
need
somebody. At least somebody's honest about it, because
Yeah,
like,
that's good.
Like,
yeah,
What do you need to cover?
I have no idea. Like,
I think he's just. I mean, it's kind of overwhelming
Well,
at first glance, right?
I get you, and I understand. So what we can do, once I finish this recording, I'm going to stop it, and then I'm going to try to upload it to YouTube, and then y'all can go over this video, just like set it to double speed,
Mhm.
and just cover areas. You can just review areas where you may have been confused or something.
Right.
But at the same time, you can also go into these maps, like I said, and just read the annotations and stuff, and see how the example works, and just you can mess with it as well. As long as you don't commit what you mess with, you can like duplicate the map and just make a map that you don't want to commit. Like I could say like duplicate top-down example map and call it like Tarot test map, and then you never just commit that test map, and you just do whatever you want in there. And from there, you could just like mess around with the blueprint, just keep messing with it in order to figure out how it works, and just reverse engineer your way through each node, so to speak. But were there any specific questions that I can go ahead and answer for you real quick? And then if you have more than just that, then we can just call the meeting and I can just stick in with you and let Tara and that go. All
yeah, that'll work.
right, so do you think like the test map is all you need right now and just like reviewing the video, or is there a question you need to ask? Because like I'm here.
Well, I don't necessarily have any questions right now, so
You just need to like review it.
yeah.
All right. Then I think we'll be good for now. Yep, I think we got some good stuff done in figuring this stuff
Yeah.
out today.
Yeah, I think it's good stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Tarot test map is in use. No, it's not in use. I tried to delete the full duplicate map that I made. It's like the map's in use. The map is not in use. I just made it. uh, Unreal can be weird sometimes. It's fine. So yeah, I think we're good then. Go ahead and just like post in your reports channels that you met with me and stuff and what y'all covered and what you're all planning to do after this. I'll go ahead and try to get this uploaded to YouTube, and then I'll post a link when that's ready.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question after you're done recording.
All right, sure. So I think we're good then. Anything else to note for now? Oh, one last thing. What do y'all think we want to start on tomorrow? Because we need to start digging through these tasks in order to get them done by the 30th. And like for some of these level design things, like maybe we just during the meeting we just need to be sitting in the same room and we can work on different tasks. Because I still have some programming things to do for Robert. But is there a combined objective that y'all want to tackle?
Well, I'm not here tomorrow, so
Fair enough. And
Yeah.
plus, it's a Wednesday meeting, so Robert will be there. We can go over some of the stuff and how we want to move forward. So we'll
That'll-
probably do it. We'll probably handle it that way. And when Robert shows up,
Yeah.
we'll discuss what we went over and how we want to team up with folks. So that sound good?
When 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 the video gets uploaded to YouTube, I'll watch. Don't worry.
All right. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think we should keep these to an hour, especially if we're going to be reviewing these videos.
Yeah, sounds good. Remember, you can just like set the video to double speed.
Yeah.
And just like jump around to things that you want to cover, and you should be good. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I think we're good then. All right then. Have a good one, y'all.
Okie doke.